Hi, welcome back to a new episode on Retro Game Revival. So, as you can see, today I have an Xbox Debug Kit. I'm really blown away. I was given this for free. Somebody basically said, hey, I got this thing in my attic. Do you want it? And of course I do. So I thought today's episode would be great to basically showcase what I do to preserve these. You basically don't want to, once you receive one, you don't want to plug it in and just, give it a go, see if it works. These are a bit too precious for that. First of all, these are kits that were used by developers to make games, or in this case, test games. And there might be valuable data on here, something that we want to preserve as a community. So you don't want to accidentally erase that or something like that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to open this up. I'm going to have a look at the clock capacitor, see if that's still okay. They're supercapacitors which basically can explode, or at least, go out all over your motherboard and eat away traces and leave all sorts of nasty behind. So we want to clean that up if anything happened there. And if not, it's a good thing to open these up anyway. This specific one, I'll flip it over and show you. This one is 18 years old. So yeah, just think about that. All the dust, all the, everything in here could potentially overheat it. Now, if we want to restore the hard drive on this, it's a process that takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and you don't want to run this machine hot for that long by accident. So we want to open it up, remove all the dust if there's any at all, have a look at the fan, clean that up, and apply new thermal paste to the processor. And then, that basically should make it good to go to plug in and restore all the data on this. So let me flip around the camera a bit so I can show you the bottom side of it. So I'm covering up all the critical information. I don't want this to be traced back to anyone who I got this from. But the important part to this is the MFG date, which is the manufacturing date, which is 2002. So that's 18 years ago. This thing, the thermal paste at the very least will be dried out. So that's why we're going to be doing this. I like the little sticker here that says do not remove opening breaches contract. Yeah, we're going to have to open that up. There's a screw underneath here, and if I zoom out, yeah, underneath these in each corner there's a screw as well. And that allows us to open the case up and get to the inside of it. So let's do that. Alright, so turned out that my SD card was full, and it cut off actually just the very last bit of getting the motherboard out, which is not a big deal. So yeah, as you can see, it looks pretty much like your standard motherboard of any Xbox Classic. The only difference being, I don't know if that shows up, it says XDK on here. Let me try and get autofocus turned on. There we go. And if this works, does that work? Basically, this is the clock capacitor, and it's not that bad. You know what? I'll actually get a close-up on my phone of that later. What I want to do now is remove these the heat sinks, and yeah, that should be relatively easy. You can just lift this clip, and then on the other side of it, like over here, you can take like your tweezers and pry it off, and then the whole thing comes off. Same goes for this one. Over here, you put some tweezers, you unhook the clip, and it comes off. So I'm going to do that, and I'll show you on macro what the rest of the board looks like. Alright, so my apologies for the shaky camera and bad audio, but this is the cap in front of the super cap that seems to have leaked on the board. Left some nasty markings. Let me try and get that into view. So this here is the super cap itself, and try and get an angle on that. Yeah, as you can see, seems to be some dull solder joints around that. These look fine to me. So I'm just going to remove these two caps, replace this one. You can leave this one out, and just clean around the board. I'm going to use some vinegar to neutralize any alkaline or any acid from the cap itself from this area, and then I'm going to clean up with some IPA and some cotton buds. So let's take these out. Alright, so again, doing a macro shot from a phone. I'm sorry about the shaky cam, but as you may be able to see, this is cleaned up rather nice. So before, this was all covered in God knows what, and took out the clock capacitor here, which I'll show you in a bit. That was, yeah, that was needed. And the area around this one also looked not too healthy, so I took this one out as well, and I put it in my tester, and turns out this one's fine. So I'm going to put that back, but let me show you the components themselves. So as you may be able to tell, I have cleaned this board up pretty well. This right here used to be the offending area where the super cap had leaked. I need to apply some thermal paste to the GPU and CPU, and then I can put the whole thing back together and give it a test. Now, this here is the old super cap. I still need to get used to this camera. Let me try and get focus on this manually. Yeah, that's about there. It's more difficult than I would think it'd be, but as you can tell, this has leaked quite severely. So it could have been worse. I've seen worse in consumer kits, but yeah, it's just something that you want to avoid in a piece of hardware like this. You could have seen in the time lapse as well, I was taking it really slow. I actually forgot one of the screws, but I figured it out when I flipped it over. Yeah, I was just taking it slow, and if you're doing this yourself, just be wary where things go and just take your time. There's no rush. Yeah, that's the biggest tip I can give you. Anyway, let's reassemble this thing, and I guess we can give it a test. Alright, so this is going to be the moment of truth. I've fully reassembled it, hooked it up to my TV. I have it plugged into the power, but I don't have the leads turned on yet, so let's give it a try. I'm going to turn it on and see what happens. Not seeing anything yet, so let's hit the power button. Perfect. It's making a bit of a noise. See if there's anything in there. There is a disc in there actually. Huh. That's very interesting. It's gonna stay on the time screen because remove that cap for it. Let me close this up because this is making a hell of a lot of noise. There we go. So that was a successful repair. I will be going through and checking online, getting some help from people to actually see if we can dump the hard drive of this and find if there's anything interesting on here. But I'm going to keep that for a second episode. So let me turn it on one more time. It's a very noisy machine. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really pleased to have this in my collection. And if you'd like to see more content, then leave a comment. I read every one of them, try to reply to each one of you, and thank you very much for watching.